Hello everyone, and you might be wondering why I'm putting out the same video 2 days in a row, and it's actually because it's not exactly the same. I made a mistake when I was making my Punish raid build for Protection Warrior that I had put out yesterday, and this is correcting that mistake. So I am unlisting that previous raid video, and this one here for Protection Warrior will be the correct one. A viewer pointed out something that my brain had completely omitted when I was making the build, and I kind of feel bad for it, but unfortunately, I am a human being, I make mistakes, brains like to brain and forget things, and I am sad that I let this slip through my fingers, but at the same time, this is an opportunity for me to step back and be like, okay, reevaluate, get everything back together. It was a hectic week, a lot of family stuff going on, of course, and getting ready for Mythic Plus and everything. So I am correcting that mistake, and I am correcting the Punish build for Protection Warrior. Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today we are talking Vault of the Incarnates raid builds for Prot Warrior, and I've got two builds for you today. One I'm calling Punish, certain talent called Punish, and one is called Execute. I wonder what that could be. Before we do get into it though, please do like, comment, subscribe. We are smashing that 6K goal for the end of the year. Thank you so much everybody for all the love and support. There's a Discord link down below if you have any questions at all or want to hang out with a wonderful group of people, come hang out. There are t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies for sale if you are interested in those. Blood DK, I'm the healer now. I don't want to calm down, I just want to rage warrior, and I only do dungeons fully erect. You can get those at the Teespring link down below. And lastly, there's one that I'm forgetting. Oh, Twitch, I stream. Come on by, check out the stream, come ask questions, come have fun. And Twitch drops. Yeah, there's Twitch drops going on this weekend. The 11th, hopefully you got yours already. But yeah, so this is the 11th as I'm recording this. And I've been working on a couple of these builds for a while now. So let's get into the warrior section of this. Howling Rune, you want the haste. Want as much haste as possible. Season 1, we're severely lacking on that haste, right? Leech for your bracers and cloak. Very, very good for warrior. Warrior loves a good leech. We start with 10% baseline, but getting anything else that you can. Very, very good. I actually have to start buying my enchants and stuff like that now too, because Mythic Plus opens up in a couple of days, and raid's opening, so I need to get myself fully enchanted and all of that fun stuff. Haven't really been needing to for MOs and a world tour and open world content. Sophic Devotion on your weapon, you want that primary stat. For files, Static Empowerment is really good for the fights where you can just literally stay put and not move very much. Aside from that, Elemental Chaos is kind of just a generally good one. Warrior likes all of their stats, although we do prefer Haste Verse. Mastering Crit is not bad, and having a full uptime on a file that you can make use of no matter what the situation is not terrible, right? It's not bad. Glacial Fury is not also bad offensively. Unfortunately for files, there's not a lot of really great ones for single target, which is what these builds are going to be going around. Alright, the first build that I have for you guys is what I'm calling the Punish build. This focuses around taking the Punish talent. Shield Slam deals 10% increased damage and reduces enemy damage taken to you by 3% for 9 seconds, and multiple punishments may overlap. This build makes Shield Slam the most important button you have in Raid. It is the one that, the moment a proc comes up, it is your next global and you go, and that's the idea of this just being your constant your constant sustain single target damage is your highest damage is going to be Shield Slam, as well as providing you with an active tankiness just by doing that. So you're going to deal quite a bit of damage, and you're going to help apply damage reduction to you through this means as well. With this build in the class tree, we're going to take Thunderous Roar and the two abilities here. The reason I don't take Shockwave is Shockwave starts underperforming in single target, because for it to really amp up, you want things like Rumbling Earth to reduce the cooldown by 25 seconds. When you're playing Shockwave in Mythic Plus, you can easily get this down to a 25-second cooldown and pair it with Booming Voice Demo Shout to allow you to get those constant bursts of shockwaves, but in single target, a 40-second cooldown, although this still does hit very hard with Sonic Boom, does not give you the benefits of Thunderous Roar, along with the increased bleed duration, the 15% increase of your bleed effects at all times. That's not just during Thunderous Roar's times. That is Deep Wounds and Rend just straight up dealing 15% more damage at all times, and of course bringing that down to a 1 minute cooldown is really, really good, right? We're still going to be going with Unstoppable Force because you want the rage generation from Thunderclap to just upkeep everything else. Now, in the correction that I did make is I am now going with Enduring Defensives because while Shield Block is active, Shield Slam deals 30% more damage. So you do want to be pressing Shield Block as much as you can. The caveat here is if you don't think you're going to have Shield Block for when you need to taunt, don't press it. You need to have the foresight to know that you're about to taunt off in 3, 4, 5, 10 seconds, and hitting this shield block might mean that you might not have it. So you need to hold on to it because, of course, in Raid, your primary job as a tank is don't die. Shield block helps you not die. Melee boss, raid bosses, tend to have much harder white swings than things in Mythic Plus. So this is something that you're going to have to watch out for. But the increased duration of 2 seconds for shield block is pretty huge for this build as well, and that's what I had actually omitted. And my brain just did brain things and forgot. And again, I apologize. I own up to it. I'm fixing my problem. I'm fixing my what I'm doing. Now, this build has a lot of synergies with, of course, things like Strategist, Devastator, and Crushing Force. Shield Slam deals an additional 10% damage and deals 10% increased damage and critical strike, not to mention Brace for Impact. Using Shield Slam increases the damage of Shield Slam by 5% for 16 seconds. All of these things add up, and that's why this makes Shield Slam a much more important button in Raid to be pressing at all times and to prioritize. Not that you're not pressing Shield Slam in Mythic Plus or whatever, but AoE abilities, you can sit on a proc for a little bit, right? But in Raid, you do not want to be sitting on procs. You want to have this 25% Shield Slam increase up at all times in Raid, so hitting Shield Slam as often as possible is the easiest way to do that. Keeping Punish stacks up. Easiest way to do that, prioritize Shield Slam, have Crushing Force, and then there you go. Now, there is the argument here for Heavy Repercussions. I really, really like this talent. Unfortunately, right now for Season 1, and for pretty much anybody going into a progression raid in the next couple of weeks, so this is the day before Raid comes out, December 12th, we simply don't have the haste to run Heavy Repercussions properly. Into the Fray is going to just give you a straight up 10% haste buff, which anyone playing any tank right now knows how good that is. This one talent is making up 33 to 35% of my haste entire budget of what I have. This one talent is just too good to not take, but once we start getting our haste values up and hitting those first haste breakpoints in the 30% range, we can start getting away from Into the Fray and into Heavy Repercussions. But right now, until you get there, take Into the Fray. And, once you're on farm and you got all your gear perfect and everything's good, you can take Into the Fray off and go Heavy Rep. But for progression settings, I highly do suggest Into the Fray for, many and obvious reasons. This build here is one that I'm very happy with. This is the build that I'm going to be going into Mythic Plus, and Mythic Plus in Raid, unless I hear Execute damage is the most important damage here, then I'm swapping over to my Execute build. Up next is Pure Zug Execute. This build is designed for maximum execute damage with sacrificing some tankiness, but is quite literally designed to just, this is what I've come up with, we're sacrificing a lot of not a lot of tankiness, enough, but execute is the name of the game here, so which is why we took a point out of endurance training and put it into cruel strikes to increase your critical strike damage of execute. You take Juggernaut, you go with Massacre, so Execute is now usable on 35% health mobs or below. Ravager for those Execute windows. If you know the boss at 40% and Ravager comes off cooldown, save it for the last 5. The moment that execute glows and you know it's permanent, you put Ravager down and you start chunking. This is all about maximum execute Zug with things like sudden death and and all of that fun stuff. Go, go, go. If you feel like you do not need, if you need less defensives and you just want more bleed damage, you can take points out of where you need to and put them into a Bloodborne just to increase your Thunderous Words, your Rend, your Deep Wounds, and all of that fun stuff. Couple of raid rotation tips. Always keep Ignore Pain up. Do not hit shield block when your co-tank is actively tanking. You do not need it at that point. Most of these builds here are designed for shield block only being used when you have the boss, because you're not going to upkeep 100% uptime on shield block with this. It's not needed. You don't have the boss half the time most of the time, so you don't need 100% shield block uptime. Plain and simple. You want 100 effective shield block uptime when you are actively tanking the boss. So this means do not hit, if your co-tank just taunted off, don't hit shield block. You taunt the tank, you have shield block. Things like Champion's Bulwark helps with this. Last Stand with Bolster helps with this. So every 2 minutes you can get 15 seconds of shield block, which could be enough for an entire taunt off rotation, where you don't need to spend the rage on shield block because you can hit a button and just get it, and focus on your Ignore Pains and trying to maximize your damage output through different means, right? So that's the idea there. Ravager is really, really good for rage generation, even on single target. While the damage might not be there, the rage that it does generate is insanely good. So this is the execute build right here. I'm going to be building these on Wowhead and posting them. I'm still having stupid amount of troubles importing, sharing these. Like, it does not work for me, and I don't know why, and it's actually starting to drive me insane. But yeah, so that is the raid guide for Prot Warrior. If you're just coming into raiding and you've only done Mythic Plus, the amount of tanking responsibility in raid is a lot less than Mythic Plus. The amount of the list of responsibilities tanks has in Mythic Plus is almost as long as Santa's naughty list. In raid is stay alive, position the boss correctly, do damage. That's it. That's all you got. If you're raid leading, you add more onto that. But if you're 1 out of 20, your list of things you have to do is a lot smaller than Mythic Plus, right? Stay alive, do damage, position the boss correctly. That's all you got. Do mechanics. That's it. Not that complicated. Doesn't need to be much more complicated. As it comes towards stance dancing as well, when you are actively tanking the boss that has high tank damage output, go switch into defensive stance. If you do not feel you need defensive stance, go into battle stance if you think you're geared enough or whatever for that, and you can stay in battle stance pretty much the whole time and only use defensive as a cooldown, as a defensive, right? If you don't need it, stay in battle stance. If your co-tank is actively tanking the boss, be in battle stance. Plain and simple. I'm actually going to list a macro that you can put in that is quite literally one button will swap you from defensive to battle stance, whichever one you have, so that way you don't have to have 2 different keybinds for it, because Prot Warrior has enough keybinds as is. But that is it. Thank you very much for watching this raid guide. I hope you have yourselves a good one, and happy tanking.